Mama.
Mama.
She was just 6 months old and she had been raised Amish. She met her husband Edward, who was also Amish, but when she was around 23 years old, they both decided for personal reasons that they wanted to leave the Amish and join the local Mennonite church.
Muito bem, aventureiros espaciais! Agora que temos os
They are much less conservative than the Amish. They are allowed to have cell phones, electronics, TVs, and most important, they can own and drive cars. Now, Barb was pretty smart because since she had grown up in the Amish community and had known a lot of the local people,
Mama.
she made a pretty decent living off of driving people in the community around once she had joined that Mennonite church and was able to find a car. Now, touching on Barb and Edward,
Mama.
outside looking in, Barb and
Muito
Edward
bem,
were living
aventureiros
very
espaciais! Agora que
they
temos os
had
líquidos.
children together and they lived in this very gorgeous, spacious home. They owned cars and boats, and if you didn't know any better, it looked like their lives could not have been any more perfect. But we know in a lot of these cases that sometimes, honestly, the dirtiest laundry can be hiding behind.
Mama. Mama. Muito bem, aventureiros espaciais! Agora que temos os objetos, vamos nos preparar para o lançamento novo!
Called her and asked if she knew anything about death was, am I a suspect? And that made the detectives' jaws drop. They had interviewed person after person in the community, and most people who are more than willing to help and have nothing to hide automatically go to a mindset of, what can I do to help, rather than a mindset of, am I a suspect? So the oddness of it all was something that they did not ignore or take lightly in the slightest. On the phone call, Barb admitted that she and Eli did have a relationship. She told the detectives that she had known him for about 4 years and had met him not long
Muito bem, aventureiros espaciais! Agora que temos os objetos, vamos nos preparar para o lançamento novo!
Mama. And it didn't take long for their relationship to just go from flirting to informing.
The odds are stacked against Leon. She wasn't as prepared as I would have liked, and he was a skeptic. Right now,
Muito bem, aventureiros espaciais! Agora...
Mama.
Muito bem, aventureiros
Mama.
Mama.
Suspicious. I'm sure that Edward had been suspicious as well. She claimed that once they ended things, she still would give Eli and his friends rides because that was her stream of income, and it would have looked more suspicious, more off, if she started refusing rides from one specific person. Even though she continued with the rides, though, she told detectives that she was never alone with Eli after that. It was always him and his friends that she would drive around. Now keep in mind, this was all over a phone call. So the detectives decided that since she was fairly open, at least more than Eli, they now wanted to bring her in for questioning and see if they could get some more information from her. Maybe even about where she had been the night Barbara was killed. I mean, she would have a perfect motive after all. So when Barb was asked about her whereabouts that night, she told them that she had actually been the one to drive Eli and his friends to their fishing trip. She claimed that she had gotten back into town with them that night around 11 p.m., had dropped them off, and headed back to her own home.
Muito bem, aventureiros espaciais! Agora que temos os líquidos...
Also home that night, and that he'd be able to verify everything that she told them. But before investigators could even call Edward to talk to him or bring him into the station, another bomb was dropped on him. A 25-year-old named Danny had come to the station with a pretty
Muito bem,
insane
aventureiros
accusation.
espaciais!
She told
Agora
them
que temos os
that
líquidos...
she had actually been having an affair with Eli, and that during the time they spent together, he said some pretty
Muito bem, aventureiros espaciais! Agora que temos os líquidos...
now that his wife had been murdered. Danny told the detectives that she had met Eli 2 years earlier on an online website called Mocko's. His profile described him as the Amish Stud. Danny said that the title was what really got her interested in him. Now, Mocko Space was a place where you could be in an online chat room, and when detectives looked more into it, they found that Eli talked to many, and I mean many, different women online. Now, in an absolute cringe detail, I get secondhand embarrassment just thinking about it, so I'm going to try not to get the chills saying it. I already have the goosebumps. His profile name was Amish Stud, and his profile subject was Who Wants to Be in Amish Style. I mean, he wasn't shy on there at all. He posted multiple photos of himself, he was showing pictures of himself, and that wasn't the only way that he posted it, because he also had multiple other profiles. He was really Danny told detectives that he was talking to her on his cell phone, which she knew he wasn't supposed to do. She didn't even question it. He told her about the small business that he had, and said that he had a cell phone because he needed to use it for business reasons. Dandy claimed that their relationship had lasted long because they decided to go with that off as friends, and they had only met in person many times during the store, and they would just get coffee together and they would talk. She told them they had been friends for a little bit years when Barbara's mother died. The one thing that she described about him was that he was very charismatic, and he did not at all fit the typical Amish man stereotype. She said he was outgoing, he was far from shy, and was very opinionated about many different topics. The reason she felt like she needed to talk to the detectives was because many times during their long conversations about life, he said things that go from pathetic to a little bit of a red flag once your wife has been murdered in cold blood, such as talking about how unhappy he was in their marriage. And he didn't stop just there, because he often made little comments about wanting to know how to kill people. And one time he even made a comment to Dandy that if she ever saw Barbara out, to run her over. And Dandy told them that the moment that she realized that she needed to take a step back
Muito bem, aventureiros espaciais. Agora que temos os líquidos.
not knowing which set of concerns were poisonous, and this was seemingly out of nowhere. She had felt even before Barbara's murder that these were becoming increasingly weird. So things were starting to look more and more suspicious now. So detectives asked Dandy if she would possibly help them out with possibly getting in contact with Eli, and maybe even getting him to say something that he wouldn't have said to them. But when she tried calling the number that she had been reaching him on, it was disconnected. So that's when they decided as a group that since Dandy didn't have an active account on WacoSpace where she had first met Eli, she would create a new account and she would message him because she knew that he would respond to her right away. And she was right. She had sent him a message basically saying that she had heard so many different things and she wanted to know what was going on. She left her cell phone number in the message, and within minutes, Eli was calling her. He told her immediately about how, since they had last talked, someone had come and murdered his wife. And Dandy thought it was pretty strange that he seemed to show no emotion or concern in any way, shape, or form when he told her what had happened. Now, he must have had some suspicion or inkling that Dandy was working with investigators, because when she asked what happened to Barbara, he told her that he couldn't, and then he called her back another time. She never called. It might sound like Dandy's help was a dead end, but it was far from it, because now they had this secret phone number of his. They figured if they looked more into the phone records, it would be fairly simple to call his bluff on not having any affairs, or the fact that he had claimed he hadn't talked to any of the women in years, right? And Dandy wasn't the only woman who Eli had made some pretty disturbing comments to either. While detectives were looking into Eli's online alter ego as the Amish Stud, he contacted multiple women that he had been chatting with, and they all said the exact same things as Dandy. He would talk about how miserable he was in his marriage, and he would make strange comments, sometimes even asking them if they knew of anyone who could come and kill his wife. Now, I'm sure they all didn't think that he was odd and a little concerning, maybe. Surely they all thought that serious, right? The one woman that he was seeing was named Tanya. He told detectives that on the occasion, Eli had asked her specifically about the rat poisoning. She claimed that he said, "You're smart. Help me figure this out. You can use rat poison. I don't know anything about poisoning people." He apparently even went as far as saying he was going to put it in Barbara's drink that she drank every night before bed, before then laughing it off and dismissing it as some sort of joke. The detectives knew that Eli's secret phone was that might possibly connect Eli with Barbara. At this point, they knew that he was a terrible husband, a terrible father, but unfortunately, Eli's cell phone. They found that the phone wasn't even in Eli's name now. It was in Barb's. So things were now looking a little bit fishy, and they were from the start, but they now knew that their next move was to subpoena the cell phone records so they could see exactly who Eli had been talking to, as well as the things that he was talking about. Once they had the phone records, they immediately saw that Barb wasn't just doing Eli a favor by putting the phone in based on the most recent texts, it was pretty clear that Barb had but they were also very as well. Now, these were not the texts of two friends. And when detectives looked deeper into the messages between them, they literally hit because they were those messages discussing and this was all their relationship. Barb said to Eli in one of those texts, if we could get something in her to make her speak hard, and then get a can or two of nitrogen or CO2 gas, we could let it leak out under the bed. It would look like carbon poisoning. And these horrible calculated texts did not end there. Disturbing texts, just blowing up the house. And even in that suggestion, Barb, not Eli, shockingly had been the one to say, yeah, but what about your 5 kids, who will obviously be in the house with her as well? Eli's response was absolutely disgusting and insane, because he pretty much told her it was no big deal, because they were all so young and so innocent, they would just go to heaven anyway. These are innocent children, his own children, and he could not burning alive. Nothing to him, clearly. I mean, thank God that Barb at least had enough sense and empathy to care about those innocent kids, or the thing could have been an entirely different, other dark and sinister story, with way more casualties. So as if all of these text messages weren't damning enough, there were also texts between the two of them the night before Barbara's death. In these messages, Barbara expressed how nervous she was, and said that she didn't think that she could live through it. So Barb was definitely showing hesitation, saying over and over that she was scared, that she was coming up with excuses, that she didn't know if she was or that she wouldn't be able to see it because all of these things. Eli, on the other hand, seemed more than happy to be so
Least population you've ever had.
and it was even better that he
Least population you've ever had.
he had an answer for every excuse that Barb was giving, and he said
Nos, mios hei ohamen nunkel.
he expressed any sort of fear or doubt. Barb two explained that she was interested in getting married, and she instructed him that no matter what he did, he wasn't supposed to let the police know about his phone, and definitely not give it to them. So after all of this, just days later, on June 10th, 2009, both Eli and Barb were arrested for the murder of Barbara.
Okei, yrkondoroknost, voimme kolmoko mikkelkying, kysyy felakilöveishe.
My children motivated us to hopefully quick closure, at least start one.
After they were both arrested, they were able to get a search warrant